Let's see what we got here. Okay, so Ryan's going to be here shortly, and he says he's bringing a new game along? Huh, how odd. I guess it's one we've never seen in the show before. I mean, it could be interesting, you know, he's got a decent taste in games, Hero Escape and all, so... I mean, yeah, I could go with that, but what if, oh crap, what if it's a plot? He's got some sort of crazy plot. He wants to kill me for all the times I've maimed, killed him, and tried to murder him, like that one time with the gun turret that didn't go very well. He wasn't supposed to live, but, you know, that happens. Okay, alright, I gotta be prepared. Weapons, gotta be weapons around here. Let me get some. Oh boy, it's a kid. Babies, carry disease, germs. This is biological warfare!
Hey Jason, I see you got the game. Stay right there. Jason?
Ryan, what kind of game is this?
One we have never seen before. It is called The Game of Life.
It's kind of funny if you think it's only been an hour and a half. Then again, it's already been a year since the last time we sat down and filmed one of these episodes.
Over a year.
Oh, it has been over a year because
We delayed this.
we delayed this. That was my fault. But more about that anyway. Because we're here on the couch just making crap up. I'm Jason.
I'm Ryan. Who's your daddy? Who is your daddy? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you.
You're killing the microphone by screaming into it.
Exactly. I don't care.
Anyway.
I'm excited. Okay, let's go.
It's another Merry Christmas time here on the Tabletop Battlefield. I probably screamed in the microphone too, but that's all right. Let me turn down both of our microphones.
Break the levels.
Yeah, you're just screwing. So
I was thinking about doing that all week, actually.
Were you? You're sitting here playing this intro all week. You're gonna scream into the camera. Warn me next time if I can adjust the audio levels. But anyway, Ryan obviously has a bit explaining to do. So why don't we just let him explain that, and then I'll talk about what I've been up to this year, guys. So
Okay, very, very important thing, and I have to start by apologizing because we knew about this last year when we did Tabletop Battlefield last year, and
Yes.
I kind of mentioned it, but not really.
I think you said, "Oh, I have big news." or
Yes,
something.
like something big was going to happen next year. And basically, we found out that fall last year that my wife was pregnant. And it's a big thing for us because we've been married now 9 years, and we've been trying forever, and now it's finally, yes! Something finally happened, but we didn't want to like grandstand it. We wanted to make sure everything was going to be okay because of just certain reproductive issues that have happened in the past. We just wanted to make sure everything was going to be okay. But everything was good. Baby boy was born June 7th this year, and he's about as chunky and healthy as one could be. His name is Jose Ryan Emilio Wilkie. And if we did an intro,
Maybe.
you'll see him in the intro. That's that little guy in the intro. And if not, I have the video to give to Jason to where we can just paste it here and
I'll
then
toss it here whether we do
Yeah.
an intro or not. It just makes life a little bit easier.
Exactly.
Remind them.
And so yeah, I shot that separately with him a few weeks ago. It's the first time he saw a lighting setup, a filmmaking a setup, and I just sat him on the table.
5 months to get that?
Huh?
Took you 5 months to get introduced to that, Ryan?
Yeah, it didn't take too long. Oh, a kid's a good kid. But yeah, just I had a day with him to where it was just me and him at home, and I set up like I would normally set up for like animating. Only it was just basically a car seat, and put the kiddo in it, and he's just looking and just was great. Got some great shots for the intro if we do it, and yeah, I mean it's been it always changes your life to have kids. I don't think anybody who hasn't had kids can't say that their life hasn't been changed, and that's equally for me as well. It's just I mean it's beyond words just to see this, kid just like just tiny little thing and witness the whole birth, and it was just like it was just a magical, amazing thing. I know many people like saying, "Oh, it was horrible" and stuff, and yeah, there's going to be complications sometimes. But besides the fact that I've lost a lot of sleep since this baby's been born, I can't say that it hasn't been a bad thing, and even losing sleep isn't entirely a bad thing, unless you really need it.
You really need it.
So that's
I like sleep.
That's the big news. Yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for this year? It's just been that crazy of the year, and that's one of the reasons why I'm behind in everything now and all the projects that I'm doing. But it's definitely well worth it. Well worth it.
We'll get to all those details in a moment. So I'm sure you got plenty of Tales of Valhalla stuff to promote here in just a minute or two.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll talk quickly about what I've been up to. A whole lot of nothing terribly surprising, if you kind of know how I operate for the most part, of course. Still running the Kalidasia universe over at Kalidasia.com. Selling some of that stuff and working on the next expansion for the game, which at some point I know I told myself it would come out in June of 2018, and it's now looking early 2019. But all the big playtesting stuff is done, so it's just writing stories and finishing some artwork and packaging it all up. So the hard stuff is done at least, which is a very, very good thing. Other than that, other fun little project I've been up to this year that I launched was storyofmichigan.com. I've decided to take a shot at doing archival historical research into the history of the state of Michigan, because that's where I live. And it's actually been a lot of fun. If you've never done historical research, it's very accessible. Local libraries, local museums have all sorts of crazy, amazing stuff you can just look into. And no matter where you go, wherever you live, there is some fantastic, amazing stories. Just all over the country, you're going to find these little plaques that are often on buildings or on trails, and they talk about, very briefly, some event that happened. And if you dig into those, some of the stuff you can find is absolutely amazing. I mean, even just going and here in the United States, anyway, you've got tons of monuments to military soldiers who served in wars or were killed in action. Just looking in the names of those people and just finding, even starting there is a very obvious place to start, and it's fantastic where you'll go. And I've done one on an act of arson in 1875 where a paper mill was burned down by a woman. And I finally dug up actually some of the court records on it. I found her arrest warrant, jail transfer papers, all sorts of stuff like that. I went into talking about tornado outbreak, which got me into the research of one of the most famous tornado researchers in the 20th century, Dr. Ted Fujita. And I just recently put up one trying to track down a couple ferries which carried cars across the Straits of Mackinac and how they ended up serving in the Second World War. And I still can't quite find all their military records. They're actually very, very hard to find, I guess, records of Army ships because they were in the Army, not the Navy. But I got more stuff like that coming up. And that has basically been my year in a nutshell, just trying to do other fun little video projects.
I remember you asking me for to help in that, and I never did.
No, I'll get you in here one of these days because I mean.
Well, I don't know if well,
yes, if you have time with a kid and all.
If I have time, I mean, but you haven't. I mean, I appreciate not calling me because I probably wouldn't have the time.
I try to get some little better audio and video production. I actually bought. Just this last week, I'm on a new wireless microphone, so now I can actually do field shoots where I'm not tied down to one spot, which will be a nice change of pace. I can actually do a little bit of those nice documentary-style walking towards camera, video recording things that look kind of cool sometimes. I don't know. But Other than that, I actually will also at some point soon, probably not right when this video is released. We're actually filming this on December 23rd, so we're really pushing that whole Christmas December 25th thing.
Yeah,
it should be out.
I feel like saying Merry Christmas because I don't know when you're going to be releasing
I
this.
will get this out. Technically Christmas is 12 days. Now, I will get this. Yes, I will get this out probably just Christmas Eve. So it's just gonna sit down, drop it in, drop a few things in, and hit go.
Oh.
Not that big of a deal. I got nothing to do after we're done here or tomorrow, so it won't be that big of a deal.
We'll see.
But the tabletopbattlefield.com will be getting a new website here shortly for very practical reasons.
Well, yeah, because it's old.
It's old, and it's to the point where it's kind of dangerous. So a bit of programmer speak here. So the PHP programming language, which is what the Tabletop Battlefield was written in, I wrote it, 13 years ago. Basically, the version of PHP that runs the server that processes it is going end of life here very, very soon. It might have already happened this week, but this week and next week, it's being end of life, which means the developers are never going to issue security updates for it. So if any security vulnerabilities are found in that software, it's not going to be fixed, and therefore it'd be dangerous to have. And the software is not going to run on modern versions of PHP because it uses the original MySQL library, not MySQL. PHP people know what I'm talking about there. So I got to actually go ahead and replace it with something else, and that's almost ready to go at the time this is being recorded. So it'll be basically just a fancy YouTube video page, but whatever. It's something different and something needed. So that'll be coming soon. And that is about it for my update. So Ryan, you've got more crap to talk about. So why don't you? Now that the exciting kid stuff is out of the way.
I feel so special.
That's what I do at the show, make it feel special, right? No.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk a little bit about, Tales of Valhalla and everything that goes along with it. Of course, that's the most important thing here, right?
Yeah, for you.
Well, I mean,
aside from the kid thing.
I mean, with Tales of Valhalla, it's funny. It's like if I had never started playing HeroScape, never started doing the show, Tales of Valhalla would have never been created. And for the fact that I'm doing season 2 and 3, and the production, of course, is way more than what I anticipated, and with the baby on the way, of course, we're talking about a 6 month to a year delay of actually releasing the stuff. But the good news is, next year, season 2 will start getting released. And it's 10 episodes for each season. So hopefully, throughout the year next year, one by one, back to back, get these episodes released for season 2. So by the end of the year next year, they'll be all out. And I do have a teaser trailer already cut, and I gave that to Jason, so we can show that right now.
Valhalla, once a place of peace, is now a planet of war. We once had civilization and prosperity. Then great evil rose up to enslave and destroy. Heroes were sent from across space and time to defeat those evils. You might already know some of that story. I, Jandar, know many of the strong heroes that defend Valhalla, but the time has come for a team of new heroes to rise up and save our world.
Toothpick!
That felt great.
That?
Absolutely wonderful. Those
What
beans
in
really
the-
hit the spot, guys.
Oh,
Toothpick,
I
man.
didn't get any beans. Get a match. Do we have matches on this planet?
I think birds just fell out of the tree. Toothpick. I love you, but holy, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
toothpick. Oh, that is embarrassing.
Are you telling me that you don't fart?
Oh, geez,
Everybody
no.
farts.
Stop.
Except for
Make it
girls.
stop.
Ask them.
No need for kindling, Gimp. I think whatever just came out of Toothpick is gonna set the wood on
What did
fire
you do?
for us.
Man, that's just messed up. I tell you
Well,
what.
it's a natural body function, and you should accept it, and you should accept me for being who I am and being comfortable enough around you guys to be able to share this magical, beautiful moment at this period of life.
Then again, I could be very wrong about that.
Goodness gracious, someone grab some matches. Where's the fire elemental? We need him right about now.
I order you to go away. Go far, far away, Toothpick. Never return to the spot.
I feel so ready.
Go take a bath.
Just go out in the world.
Why,
Blow some
Toothpick?
stuff up. Really bond.
Toothpick,
You know, that's
go-
something I'm looking
go
forward
wash
to.
your-
And I know that there's stinky moments,
What are
but
you-
sometimes
Wash your
you just
back
gotta let the
socks.
stink go through.
Your hindquarters
And when
need
this
to-
stink's gone, we can move on. We can just go forward. You know? You know what I mean, guys? So let's look forward to blowing some stuff up and really becoming a team. You know what I'm saying, Lieutenant Dan? You know what I'm saying, Henderson? Hey, Gimp. Buddy, I didn't forget about you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have learned the true meaning of Christmas.
The trailer that Jason has, I didn't actually have time to color correct it. So you can go on, excuse me, you can go on the Tales of Valhalla YouTube page and look at it actually color corrected. Go subscribe, do whatever you need to do on YouTube to show that you care about that particular teaser trailer, which is nothing to do with what the seasons are about. It's just a teaser. It's just in good fun, and I liked how it's funny how for those four guys playing those four characters, it seemed to blend very well together. But those were recorded on 4 separate times. I just told them basically, okay, this is the situation you're in. I didn't give them any of the other lines that the other guys were saying. And it just seemed to gel really well. So hopefully everything else gels really well too throughout seasons 2 and 3 for these particular voice actors for these characters. It's looking good. It's looking to be just raising up season 1 by 100 points basically. It's gonna be fun when it's all released. It's just a lot of work. And hopefully in the next 3 months get a full trailer up, and that will tell you basically what season 2 and 3 is basically going to be about. And it has something to do with some events that happened during season 1. Subtle hint. Subtle hit.
Subtle hit.
Subtle hit. But yeah, and yeah, I'm voicing Jandar apparently because unfortunately I had a voice actor who wasn't able to continue voicing Jandar, and so I'm instead of finding someone else to volunteer, I'm I'm just going to do this myself because just of time, and it's finding time for someone else to do it. It's I'll do it myself. So I'm not the best suited for it, but what can you do?
Do the best you can.
When you're desperate. Yeah, basically. You do the best you can. So that is basically Tales of Valhalla in a nutshell. And of course, we've got other things to talk about because Tales of Valhalla's got something to do with these terrain tiles pieces on the table here as well. But I don't think Jason wants me to talk about that just yet.
No, yeah, we'll get to that stuff in just a moment here. I think I'm going to talk a little bit about the games I've been playing this year that I'm going to be working on getting around to, hopefully in 2019, because a new one just came out that I'm really interested in. But let me start with this first one here. This one is Rune Wars by Fantasy Flight Games. This one actually came out in 2017, but I finally didn't get around to playing it until this year. It was basically Fantasy Flight's competitor to Warhammer Fantasy, and it is absolutely an incredible game. It's a little bit different because there's, in terms of some of the things you got to get around with, because a lot of the mechanics, at least I say, a lot of the strategy comes in knowing the possible actions your opponent's units can take and what units you can take and how those align up. because things occur at different times during the turn, and guys get to attack sooner than others, and knowing how all that timing works out can be a little bit frustrating. But once you kind of get that down, it's really cool. It's a very fast-playing, rank-and-file fantasy war game, and it's, in terms of the starter sets, the space starter set as well as the army starter sets, it's probably the best experience I've ever got out of a starter set box. So the $90 starter set, which comes with 2 armies, that is a little bit less than a half of a full-size tournament army, but it still is a heck of a gaming experience and a lot of different options you can use with that. So this is an awesome game if you like any kind of fantasy battle systems. It uses a variation of Fantasy Flight's Descent dice system where you have all little tokens for surges, for not ranges, but surges, hits, stuff like that. So that kind of variation of custom dice. Next one up, there's a lot of Fantasy Flight in this pile. In fact, it's mostly Fantasy Flight. That did come out this year, finally. Star Wars Legion. This is also Fantasy Flight's game. This is their Warhammer 40,000 competitor. It's definitely a 40K inspired type of game with basically, and it's a solid competitor to Warhammer 40,000. If you don't want to play Games Workshop stuff and want to try something similar, it is pretty cool. It's got some very interesting initiative actions in terms of choosing your orders for the turn, because you have to select a certain order card each turn that allows you to activate certain units in a more controlled fashion than the rest of your army. Of course, you've got a lot of stuff from the Star Wars universe. You have your Rebel Troopers, Stormtroopers, who shoot like crap because, it's like right from the movie. You've got Leia, Luke, Han, Darth Vader, the Emperor, the one general that attacks Hoth. I never remember his name. Who's the guy that attacks Hoth?
Who's the guy that attacks?
The Imperial general who's commanding the Hoth invasion of Hoth.
Well, he dies, doesn't he?
He probably does, but he's in the game.
Oh, nice. I think that's Piet or something.
Maybe I'm thinking something different than it's not Piet. But anyway, regardless, the only thing that's kind of screwy about the Star Wars Legion is it uses Fantasy Flight's crazy custom dice mechanic for something that really isn't any different than what you can get with D6s, or in this case, D8s and D6s. But that's the only kind of not so great part about it. But overall, it is a fun game if you like something that's 40K-ish, but not Games Workshop. Fantasy Flight, again. Also, this did not come out this year, but I finally got into playing it. This is Arkham Horror, the living card game, which is essentially, if you were to take Magic the Gathering and turn it into a cooperative, light, role-playing type adventure game, you would get this. Arkham Horror is Fantasy Flight's Cthulhu franchise. It's officially licensed Call of Cthulhu, so you have all those giant monsters and demons, and you're playing, one of the 1920s era investigators fighting against these monsters in various parts of the world. The base set, of course, has you in the city of Arkham, but there's ones where you travel around to somewhere down in either Central America or South America. I forget which. It's down there, going after like the ancient ruins. There's one where you go to Egypt now that just got released. So it's a lot of fun, and you can play the same characters across multiple missions, and they slowly get driven insane and or brutally killed. It's a very dark themed game with Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a very depressing franchise, but it's definitely a fantastically awesome experience if you want some light role playing that has an aspect of customizable collectible card games to it. But it is a living card game, which basically is Fantasy Flight's trademark terminology for saying it's not actually random boosters. You buy expansions that have a single mission to it and then additional player cards. So it does get pretty expensive pretty fast. The base mission sets usually have like 2 missions to them and a bunch of player cards. Those are $30. And then they have 6 more in that campaign, each of them being about $15. So it gets very expensive very fast. But it is an awesome, awesome game. And the last one that I want to play in 2019. Also, I could say I did get the new Arkham Horror board game, which is same franchise, same characters, but it's a board game versus a card game. I haven't played it yet, but it's sitting up there. And those two are kind of fun because they are cooperative games you could play by yourself. So if you want to just have something you can play, your friends to play with, you can pull those out, and they're both fully play against artificial intelligence enemies, and it's fun to do that too. So, and finally, the game that just came out not too long ago that I would like to get into in 2019. I got one of the miniatures sitting here. This is Adeptus Titanicus. This is sort of a re-release, but it is a much newer version of the game from Games Workshop, where it is their giant stompy robot game. So all the Titans, which are, if you remember from 40K, are these monstrous things. They're now in about 6mm scale, and you can play them just fighting each other. And so I've got a couple of miniatures, I got the rule sets, and basically the rules are if Games Workshop were to create battle tech. So you have multiple damage locations, some more rigid movement, shields, things like that, critical damage, and it definitely looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to play. I'm hoping to play that in the not too distant future. And that is basically it, me rambling about games that I have played this year. I think that covers, Fallout, not a video game as well. Actually, the first time ever I played a Fallout video game this year. That's how far behind I am. I got Fallout 4 at the start of the year, and Fallout 76, which I just kind of wander around in because I'm like, I don't know.
I just like Lego Marvel.
But there is a Fallout Wasteland Warfare, which is the new skirmish level game by Morpheus or something. It's a British company. It's a very interesting game. I played it a few times because it is taking the video game, literally taking the video game and turning it into a tabletop game. If you're confused about the rules, you think about how the video game works, and you'll probably be right how the rules of the tabletop game will work. So if you like that universe and maybe something to look into, it's a skirmish scale game that can be kind of fun. And that's the basic gist of what I played so far this year. So I think we're going to talk about some of the other random fun things that our listeners might be interested in. And Ryan, you've got a few you want to talk about, and then I got a few here, and we'll dive us into our final topic then.
Well, I'm going to talk about HyGround Tiles, because aside from Tales of Valhalla and Baby Been Born, I think this is one of the most fun, most important things that I've been part of this year. And HyGround Tiles is a terrain-based company, and it's mainly focused on 3D printed terrains. And we'll talk about 3D printed terrains later on in the show. But for like HyGround itself, they basically, I think a few years ago, they tried launching a Kickstarter to say, like, look, we're going to be producing these types of terrain tiles, like you see here, and you can use them for like HeroScape or Dungeons and Dragons, or anything you can use where you can customize your terrain and use them. And they failed their Kickstarter, I think mainly because they were trying to produce the materials themselves, and they had just too high of a price goal. But they did a new Kickstarter this year, and it was just to primarily release the 3D printed files of said terrains, and it went really, really well. And I saw the opportunity there. I'm like, you know what? I can use these for Tales of Valhalla. Just integrate them with the HeroScape terrains that I already have. And they're already HeroScape-like because they're not affiliated with HeroScape or Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast in any way, but they kind of made these to integrate with the.
I'm over here clicking things together.
the tiles from, or the terrain tiles from HeroScape, so you can add it on and let it be part of it. And so I'm just like, okay, this opportunity. So invested some money, and this was like, I think, early fall this year, and finally got some stuff printed out because I personally don't have a 3D printer, but I got some help from Jason here to print out some terrain, as well as a 3D printing, I guess it's a company, or a 3D printer fellow who printed out a lot of these as well. And I'll get into more of that in a second, though. I don't want to wander off here. But just to say that how these have come out, and we'll obviously provide links for like HyGround
and in the back. Let's see that. What number it is in the set? Isn't that tile 9
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah,
okay.
pretty much. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted him. I'm looking at the little
that's
tiles.
that's fine. It's
Those are in audio land.
Have fun putting these together. But yeah, for these tiles, like I said, we have like lava tiles. We got lava crust, to where you just snap them together and be like, oh, there's lava in the crust. Actually, can this snap together here?
It might. Some of them are a little bit of a tight fit. I've noticed.
Yeah.
You have the sand, like the lava tiles have the sand down a tiny bit on the edges to get them to fit in the crust tiles, but they'll go in there.
Here, I'll take one that I already. I've already snapped that in. So let's do this. Okay. So you see, you have lava tile here. You got lava crust and snap in. Lucky we're not live.
Not live. I won't cut this out.
Not
though.
that Jason won't. Not cut it
It'll
out.
be here on YouTube watching you have trouble snapping things in because that's how horrible person I am.
Yeah.
But so these, they don't directly connect to HeroScape tiles, so they have like this interface layer that's the thickness of one HeroScape tile. So you put down a HeroScape tile, you put this interface down, and then you snap on the HyGround tiles, correct?
Yes, you can put them on top of HeroScape tiles.
Some of them will sit on top.
There are connectors you can print out to have them connect more securely. It just depends on how. I mean, you have to think about how you're going to put it on. But I've seen them like in pictures from both HyGround and other people who use HyGround terrains and how they're both integrated. Okay. It just depends on how you set it up.
So some of them do actually fit on top of the HeroScape tiles, but not all of them do. I get you.
Yeah. It depends on what you're linking together. Let's see here. Come on.
But that does give them a little more freedom to do things that aren't purely HeroScape. Like you have a really nice tree somewhere around here. There's a tree right in the middle.
See? So instead of just lava, you got an actual lava crust, and as opposed to
like there's a waterfall around it that's really neat.
Like see, and here's like a HeroScape's lava crust, and here's HyGround's lava crust. And for HyGround, you would just snap this on, and that becomes part of your terrain. You just keep on building terrains from these and just add them on. And there's also like special ways like for 3D printing. One of the great things about this is for like the majority of these files to print out, you don't need to paint them. You just need the right colors, and even if it's something that has like multiple different colors, you just print out each individual piece, and then you end up snapping them together, like so. And voila, volcano.
That is pretty cool. So that's like that's the top of a volcano, like an eruption. They got some hot ash clouds shooting out of the top.
Pretty much,
whatever
and
it is.
you got the lava flowing out.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. That is cool.
Yep, and that's just one of the things. And like you have this, I really like this one to where it's like you have like a rock tile like so, and then you have a tree that printed separately, but it just snaps right in. So the way that HyGround designed these terrains, they're incredibly accurate. And I know for my the guy David who 3D printed my stuff, he did have some problems with the configuration at the beginning, and which involved in a little bit of disaster. But he pushed through it, and he just got this amazing stuff. So if anyone's who's watching this podcast in like I'd say actually basically in the northeast area of the United States, go to this guy's link. I think it's Lucky's Custom Leather.
3D printing's not his main.
Find the email. Be an adult to look into the webpage. To his webpage.
I don't know how you found this website, Ryan, to be honest with you, but you know.
Well, and that was one cool thing with HyGround. After the Kickstarter was done.
Oh, they sent it to you?
No, not this particular one.
Oh, okay.
What they do is if you go to HyGround's website, which I recommend to do first, because obviously Kickstarter is done. If you want to get these 3D printed files, they have the STL files for sale on their website, and they're not paying me to say that either. And in their website, they have different options or suggestions or ways to get these. If you don't have, if they say, oh, if you don't have a 3D printer, well, you can buy one. Here's what we use, and it's actually it doesn't cost that much, and here's how we do it, and you can copy off us. Or they give 3D printing suppliers, and there's some individual companies that they name, but there's also one website that was called, I think, Treat Stock, which they said you can find 3D printers in your area, and that's how I found this fella. So HyGround didn't recommend this fella directly. They just recommend the webpage that had him, and I saw him on there. I'm like, oh, I'll give him a go, and really good. So if you guys are looking for these type of 3D printed terrains, and you bought them, and like I don't have a 3D printer, and you don't have a friend who has a 3D printer, I highly recommend this guy from Lucky's. And like I said, website below. If you're a child, have your parent get the email for you. Just because it's I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely adult, but it's kind of adult.
It's adult material.
Yeah, it's an adult. It's kind of adult.
Yes, it's very much adult material for some of the products.
What I might do also, not just the web page for Lucky's, I'll just provide the email as well, so you can just copy and paste the email and write to David if you want to get these terrains printed for you, and like I said, you got to provide him the STL files, and he'll print it and ship it out to you. No problem. Please, if you can, give him business, because for me, he's earned every bit of business that I can give him in the future, and I probably will be giving him a lot, because there's a lot of things that I need to do with Tales of Valhalla with these terrains, and yeah. And anyway, okay. So talked about Lucky's. Back to HyGround. So overall, my view of what HyGround has done with these terrains, I am just like over the wall for these terrains. These terrains, I mean, for the little bit I've worked with them, they are fantastic, visually, aesthetically, and it's and just the way that they're to have something so different than Heroescape terrain yet so similar, and that can match up really well with it and end up becoming, part of the game itself. I mean, obviously most people aren't going to be animating with them. They're going to want to actually be playing with them, and it's really easy to do. And you're going to be able to make more new areas of Valhalla or whatever you want to do, whether it be Heroescape, Dungeons and Dragons, or the like. And not only do they have the hex terrains, they also have square terrains that they sell as well. So you have different options. So go to their website, check them out, and give them their business if you're looking to get these terrains, because these terrains are just awesome. And I'm going to provide a more in-depth, kind of a more in-depth look at these particular terrains that have been printed out on my Tales of Valhalla page coming soon. So just go to the Tales of Valhalla YouTube page, subscribe, and that'll be coming soon as well.
They are really, really nice.
They are. I am so impressed, and I can't wait. It's like in the next few weeks, I'm going to order to get the sand terrain tiles printed out, as well as maybe some mystic tiles. I don't know. I'm still thinking what I'm going to be printing out as needed, because my budget, where I can't spend a lot at once. So I know I'm definitely going to need sand. So as these come out bit by bit, I might end up giving reviews on them as they come out. But yeah, overall, really, really impressed with the lava tiles. Really, really impressed with the rock tile. I mean, these rock tiles are just there's so much detail that they give. And I mean, I show people these, and they're amazed. They're like, this came from a 3D printer? I'm like, yeah, just it's incredible. So good job, HyGround. Good job. Keep them coming.
We'll talk more about the 3D printing stuff in just a moment, because 3D printing it's definitely changing the terrain market. But I think you have two more quick little things on your list you wanted to talk about, right? About fun stuff from this year.
And I got nothing to show.
But that's right. Just summarize what it is, and I got a few things here to
we'll talk about.
ramble on about.
a couple other minor things that either interest me or that I've been into. One is something that's very not gaming related at all, but everyone knows this name, Sherlock Holmes. What movie, TV show haven't we seen, some version of Sherlock Holmes in? But how many people can say that, I went and I read the original Sir Arthur Conan Doyle works? I'm sure a lot of you out there have. I personally had not. So I decided, buy it off of Amazon, put it in my Kindle for like $10-20, like the whole complete collection. And it's been so fun. I like finding those old classics to where it's like, they're classics, they're there. These characters already from different variations of people telling about it, but you've never actually read or seen the original works. And it's amazing. And Sherlock Holmes' character, how Sir Arthur Conan Doyle first described him, is actually a lot like the Benedict Cumberbatch character, how he portrays Sherlock Holmes in the BBC Sherlock Holmes TV show. He's very standoffish. He's not a likable character by any means.
Not by any means whatsoever.
No, but at the same time, then he just becomes likable. It's just amazing the literary prose that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had, and this was a work of fiction that he was not really serious about writing. He wanted to do other things. He wanted to write other things, and this was just a way to get to that. And then eventually understanding, okay, this has become a literary icon that, like, just transcended time, basically.
Something we got to put up with now. It's like, oh.
Yeah, but anybody out there who is like, is into reading and likes, good fiction stories, just get the whole set. And just start reading through them. I mean, most of them are actually just short stories because he wrote these stories for magazines. So they're relatively short stories anyway, and they're just, some of them are so good. And there's actually one or two that made me cry, just emotionally, because it just gets you right there. So if you haven't read all those, go out there and read them. All right, and then moving on. Okay. And I really wish I had something to show for this, but there is a game out there that I saw a little bit ago that I really want to get sometime in the future, and it's called Firebrand Mountain. And it's basically looks like if you would take the game of life and transform that garden and white picket fence type game board and turn it into like a raging fire mountain to where you could, the figures you could melt from lava or drown or whatever. Basically survival. That's what this is. And I saw it, and it kind of reminded me of, if anybody knows of like the old Micro Machine Crash Canyon game back, I think it was like, this really shows my age, back in like the late 80s. To where it's like little miniature monster trucks, and you had like this casted like canyon set to where you just roll dice and you race around this canyon, and you could fall and you could knock them into water or whatever. A lot of messy fun. It kind of reminds me of that, so that's just a game that I'm like probably looking forward to get sometime in the future. I think it'd be a great one to play with my son when he gets old enough. And yeah, so Firebrand Mountain, definitely maybe in like a year or so, we might actually have that here and review that and take a look at that.
So I got a few things here. I was going to talk about some of the fun stuff I discovered this year. I was actually madly searching for one a moment ago because I might have the name wrong, so I'm going to skip that one, which is unfortunate.
That's why you need to be prepared or kind of prepared.
It's a very fantastic Netflix documentary series by the BBC, but I don't know, I might have the wrong name. Anyway, so we'll dive into a few things here. For this, one thing I started using either late last year, early this year, were really high quality brushes for painting miniatures. So I've become a fan of the Artificial Layer series from Games Workshop, which the brushes are about $25 a piece. which is a very expensive for brushes. But I've just very discovered is that expensive brushes are well worth the money. They can hold the tip very, very well in terms of when you got the paint on them. And the bristles don't fray nearly as much as cheap brushes do. So even though you're paying 5 times as much for a brush, you're getting 6 months of very good painting experience instead of having to work with a very crappy brush. Because I've painted so many miniatures with crappy brushes that I finally just screw it. I can try the good ones, and they're well worth the money. Especially when you're already paying, you know, $25 to $130 for a miniature. It's well worth the higher quality brushes to do a good job painting them up. The other thing that when I was talking about Fallout being I'm finally late to the party, the other thing I'm finally late to the party on is I finally bought a Nerf Strife. This is, I should have run over and grab it. It's sitting over there, but I'll get it in a moment. It's a semi-automatic flywheel Nerf blaster for fun. Because we actually at my day job, everyone's got Nerf blasters on their desk. So I bought this one. It's absolutely a fantastic Nerf blaster. It's been out of production for like a couple years, so you gotta get them on eBay or Amazon at pretty high prices. But they're definitely a fantastic, awesome Nerf option. And there's a lot of really cool modding options for it if you want to put more powerful motors in it. If you want to make it look like basically any gun, real or imagined, you can buy like Halo mod kits to make it look like a Halo assault rifle or the AK-47 if you want to take it outside and get shot for some reason. So those options do exist. One fun little thing here I've got inside the Arkham Horror card game box is a third-party kit that I found on Amazon. I don't know how I stumbled across it. I was looking for something for Arkham Horror. But it's called the Broken Token Divider Set. So I'm going to be very careful to tilt this towards the camera without spilling it. But they are laser cut, looks like basswood dividers for all sorts of different types of games. So obviously Arkham Horror, the card game, you have hundreds of cards. So I got a bunch of dividers for all the different player card types, the different missions that I'm working on right now. And it's got a laser cut little box that goes in the middle here that holds the game's tokens. So it's a nice way to have a whole bunch of storage options and convenient storage ways for gaming miniatures. And they have a whole bunch of different games available, a lot of Fantasy Flight stuff, because Fantasy Flight likes to have stupid amounts of tokens. But they're really cool. You can find them on Amazon, and I believe, like I said, they're called the Broken Token. And their website, if I can read it here, is thebrokentoken.com. What do you know? Definitely a bit pricey. This one here for Arkham Horror was about $28 to $30. I tried to very carefully put this thing back in. But well worth the money, because it's a lot better option than what you get with the base game, which is nothing. And then the last thing I'll talk about, because half the other things on my list were games I already talked about, we'll go into the 3D printing a little bit as Ryan's over there playing with his HeroScape 3D printed tiles. The other, I guess I'd call it a toy. It's a very, very expensive toy that I bought this year. As I bought the Ultimaker 3, which is one of the basically the highest end 3D printers you can get for FDM printing, mainly to make terrain as well as cosplay pieces. I've got it might show up in the intro. We filmed the intro, but my Ghost sniper rifle for my StarCraft 2 Ghost costume was all 3D printed. A lot of it on the Ultimaker 3, and it's a very, very incredibly nice 3D printer. I love that very, very incredibly part there, and it more so than the advantage of basically buying a really expensive 3D printer versus a cheap, crappy one is that it just works a lot better out of the box. I get over 90% plus success rates with the prints. It works fairly well with oddball filaments, especially the Ultimaker brand filaments, like their TPU 95, which is flexible. The PVA supports, where you can basically have dissolvable glue support material, is a fantastic option. So it's a very expensive printer, but it's well worth every penny. Because it just makes your life so much easier than trying to always fiddle with settings on a cheap, crappy printer. Plus, Ultimaker makes the Cura Slicer program, which a lot of people use, and because of that, it works best with their printers. Because, you know, it's designed to work with their printers, and everybody else just kind of hacks their way into using the Cura program because it's open source. And the last 3D printing thing, before we're going to talk a little bit more about that, is probably for the first time ever, a technology called photogrammetry is now becoming available to the average person. Was it Mesh Room? Mesh Room, I think is what it is an open source photogrammetry program. What photogrammetry is, I'm holding up a little 3D print here. This is a 3D model of an actual building from the real world. It would be a mid-20th century farm building from the Midwest that I actually manufactured this piece. I took my drone up in the air. I have a DJI Mavic Pro, and you're able to fly around this thing, take about 100 photos of it, and this software can take those photos and turn it into a 3D model, which I then use as a reference. I want to build a gaming piece out of it, because this photogrammetry software is awesome for mapping, but it's not really amazing yet for doing modeling for miniatures. But I was able to use these photographs and this photogrammetry model that was built from all these photographs to create kind of a hyper detailed scale model of that building for miniature wargaming. So right here, it's about a 6mm scale I'm holding at the moment. I did a nice high resolution 3D print of it, and it's pretty freaking cool to be able to have actual real buildings on your battlefield. So you're probably going to see me selling things like this during this year on my Etsy store, and I've also been making some 3D printed bases. The Warhound Scout Titan for Adeptus Titanicus I got, he's sitting on a 3D printed base that I created as well. And yeah, so that's kind of leading in a little bit to any more stuff we want to talk about in regards to 3D printing. I know you're obviously having a blast with the HyGround stuff, and
yeah, well, and I was just seeing how here's a big HeroScape.
Oh, that's what you're doing setting. Oh, wow.
Terrain set. So, and see how easily this and this is the stuff that David printed out. I think your base tiles are actually a little bit rough in the printing process.
But I have to clear off. Yeah, there's some support material.
Yeah. So it's a little bit harder to attach stuff to these, although not impossible. It's just going to take a little bit more work. But for the sake of time, just showing how easily this comes on and just snugs right into the HeroScape base. And as you can see here with the rock,
there's support material there.
Yeah, you have an option to where you can have a rock hanging down and hanging up, like so. That's something you couldn't do with HeroScape.
No.
Before.
That's cool.
And they actually HyGround also has something to where you can have wooden ledges up against rock-based mountains, and to have it just climb up and it's just inserted into the terrain. Basically, you just attach it to the terrains, and you can basically have a little walkway going all the way up a mountain, basically in a circle. So, and just all kinds of there's just all kinds of things that HyGround is creating. This is just the tip of the humongous iceberg, and they're just getting started. They're just getting started with their company. So, but anyway, as far as 3D printing goes, it's funny how I think I'm one of maybe the only people that actually do this. But I was watching some of Tabletop Battlefield's Christmas specials from years past. I think 2012, maybe 2013. And in it, Jason is talking with another co-host about 3D printing.
Yeah, Jerry. I think that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. And what 3D printing is going to be like in the future. And okay, cool.
I was cleaning it up and I'm like, it's probably hear that in the microphone. Click, click, click. Let's stop doing that now.
Okay.
Keep going.
No, that's fine. And it's funny how, I don't remember specifically what you guys said, but basically how what 3D printing could mean in the future, and the future is now. The future is today.
We're getting there.
And it's just amazing. Can you imagine when we started the Tabletop Battlefield? How many years ago? It's been over 10 years now? No.
It's been 11.
11? Okay.
2007.
Okay, 2007.
So,
yeah.
Almost 12.
Can you imagine we go back in time and we tell ourselves that 11 years from that time that we'll be able to print out our own terrains on a printer.
It was not,
and financially do it financially.
Yeah. That's the key phrase. Is that because 3D printing is an old technology. It's been around well over 30 years, but it's only really since we started the show that it became commercially available to the average person, and that's what's so amazing about it. And it's finally gotten to the point where even with cheap printers, that if you want to spend the time, the key phrase is you want to spend the time and the upgrade to them, you can get some incredible 3D printed terrain for your miniature games. You're not quite rivaling Games Workshop's kits yet, but these are very good.
It's becoming, it's coming to a point to where we are very, very close to where a lot of these gaming companies that that produce their own terrains are going to become obsolete because of the fact that we can make our own terrain, and that more independent companies can make their own terrains. And I think that's going to create, I mean, personally, I think that's going to create a shift, and I think that shift is already happening. Actually, it's just going to take us. I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, you know, all big gaming companies need to, like, you know, go away. I don't think they need to go away. I think they need to just adjust.
Yes.
And find a way to you know, be cohesive with what's happening with what's going on, because it's a great thing. It's an amazing thing, because I know it's like, I mean, HeroScape has been discontinued for almost 10 years now. And I mean, I can go on eBay and try and look for terrains like these now, but it's like 2 to 3 times the cost of what I'm paying for these HyGround terrains. So much more cost effective. It's so much more easier, and you just get so much more bang for your buck. And if you can find a good 3D printer out there, and trust me, there's more than just this fellow that worked with me. Just search for them, find them. There's a lot of good, honest guys out there who, you know, are willing to learn and be like, okay, you know, can do this for you, and to really upgrade your gaming repertoire, if you would say, if you want to say that.
My Rune Wars guy, how does the base get so bent? Anyway, sorry, I just noticed my Rune Wars guy was a base is all bent. No, but 3D printing has been a mainstay of the tabletop game industry for quite a while. Like, I'm holding here my Adeptus Titanicus Warhound Scout Titan, which, as I mentioned, is a 6mm version of a 30mm Warhammer 40k figure, which, when this guy's a normal 40k, he stands well over a foot tall. What I was told by the guy at the store, I don't know if this is the case, but what Games Workshop was able to do is just take the digital files that they used for the 40k miniature and just scale them down, reprint them out, and make new master molds for the little miniatures. And that's one of the ways companies have been using 3D printing, because more expensive 3D printers can do some amazing stuff. The Kalidasia miniature line, are all based on 3D prints, and we're starting to even see home printers in terms of resin type printers, not the FDM printers, which are the ones that have the big plastic spools on them. Those are not going to be making good high quality miniatures anytime soon. Maybe someday, but not quite yet. But resin printers, which have a liquid resin that are cured with lasers or UV lights, those are starting to do some really cool stuff at the home level. There was one came out this year that's $500. I guess it works pretty well. I haven't used it. I'd be looking to get the Form Labs, which is the expensive one that's going to give truly incredible quality that can almost compete with GW quality for miniatures. So you're going to start seeing stuff like that, to where the miniature market is going to become a bit in jeopardy, per se. But even then, when you're talking a $500 to $1,500 initial investment to bootleg miniatures, it doesn't really make a whole lot of financial sense. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen. And with, like, the terrain printers, there's a ton of people on Etsy who are selling 3D printed terrain and 3D printed terrain services. But if you do the math...
And Lucky's is on Etsy, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you do the math, the prices they're charging are not economically sustainable. If you think about, like, some of these, where, like, it might take, like, a lot of... I'm trying to think... Get my thoughts together quickly. Like with Star Wars Legion, my friends bought a whole bunch of 3D printed Star Wars themed terrain that looks like what's in the movie, like the little bunker from Endor, the shield generator from Hoth, that kind of a stuff. And those things probably took 12 to 15 hours to print, and they paid like $20, $25 for them. So whoever's printing them is making like 75 cents an hour printing stuff, which if you do the math that you've got $1,000 minimum 3D printer, if not more, it's taking you over $1,000 hours of printing time, assuming everything goes well, to repay that printer, which does not financially make sense. And then if you actually wanted to make a living wage with 3D printing, doing that, you've now got to have like 30 printers at a bare minimum running full time at 75 cents an hour just to make a living wage for one person. And there's a whole, can you sell that kind of a stuff? And we have a light is coming through the window right now, and it's like coming over on us.
The sun is shining.
That's the time for me to rant. I think it's time to finish up as the sun starts blinding us here, because I left the blinds open.
As we walk slowly into the sunset, hand in hand.
No, that's not how this show ends, Ryan. You've got a family to get back to. But yes.
I'm talking about Indiana Jones type riding into the sunset. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about either. Anyway.
I just said what I was talking about.
Yes.
Are we going to have an argument about this?
Anyway. But, yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting market. We'll see how things are 5 years from now, because it is definitely a changing market. I think a lot of people haven't done the business sense to make it into a career, but then again, they may just be doing it on the side because they have a 3D printer and want to make a little bit of money. And
exactly.
And if enough of them are doing that,
exactly,
that's going to really disrupt the market, because
it can turn into something. You've
now taken a market away and replaced it with something that's not actually a viable commercial market. And who knows what's going to happen. But anyway, we've been at this over an hour, so I think it's time to call this show done. What do you say, Ryan? You seem more interested in playing with your HeroScape tiles at this point.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to have so much fun with this next year. Like I said, go to Tales of Valhalla, Tales of Valhalla on YouTube. Jason provided the links. I'm also on Facebook.
Send it to me. You probably sent it to me last year, didn't you?
Facebook, Instagram. I upload stuff nearly every day, if not every week. And just on how Tales of Valhalla is doing, sometimes life in general, and just how productions are going. And probably going to be Instagramming a lot of this stuff. I haven't done it yet, but we'd be taking a lot of photos of this stuff in the future too. And it's just like, oh, this lava stuff is just amazing. Okay, yeah,
right.
and we didn't. I mean, we were going to build with these, but I already built with them just so they could see it, when that should be enough. So
we'll take some pictures, do some B-roll, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, you can find me, Kalidasia.com. All those fun show notes will be in the thing down there, Tabletop Battlefield.com, blah, blah, blah. If you've watched this for all this, made this end, you probably know who we are and know where all that crap is. Anyway.
I'm going to take a nap.
He's going to take a nap. So thank you guys all for watching, and have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you sometime in 2019 on the Tabletop Battlefield.